This tarrying with the negative is the magical power that converts it into being. Well, we make an assumption there when we say that the negative, I mean, it's converted into being, and what is it once it becomes? What does it become? What does no thing become? And it seems to make perfect sense. I mean, everybody knows that something really can come from nothing, because what do we mean by nothing? We have a word for something that doesn't exist. That's its definition. It's nothing. And it makes sense. You know what I mean when I use that word, and I use these expressions to talk about emptiness and zero. What the hell is zero? It's a placeholder, I guess. It holds the place of a ghost or a spirit. So, I mean, in the context of Western philosophy, we talk about spirit. I mean, this, I guess, is a response to a video about spirituality, and I'm not sure if, I mean, when I think of spirituality, I think of some aspects of Western religion and philosophy and theology, but I also think of Eastern religions and spiritualities. And so that should remain clear. So spirituality is more nowadays, in this globalized planetary consciousness, more than just Western spirit. It can also be, Buddha or the Tao or even some Confucian theory. We can have a greater concept of spirit than just Western. I think maybe it's not that we can have concepts of Eastern spirituality. I can't, the right ones at least, if there could be a right concept. It's my understanding of Buddhism is definitely an Americanized understanding of Buddhism, but it's still Buddhism, I guess. So I mean, I'm saying spirituality is a very vague term, but anyways, back to Western philosophy and Hegel and spirit. The opposite of spirit would be matter, and matter is what we can see with our five senses. And so when we talk about spirit, again, we're talking about what doesn't exist. And in the Eastern philosophers' works, like I'm thinking of Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching, and when he speaks of the Tao, the nothingness or the emptiness or the flow of nature that you can't name, he doesn't mean something that doesn't exist completely, because it's not something separate from what we can see and what we can name. And I think it's just too easy to confuse the Tao with the Western philosophical concepts of being and non-being as they go back through a series of texts to Aristotle and even, Parmenides and whatever. The Western tradition is what even I probably use to a large extent to try to interpret the Tao. But still, I'm just trying to say we should all be aware that the Tao isn't the same as non-being is for Aristotle or for Hegel. The spirit is the actual, the relation of self to self, the self as object of otherness. So this kind of sounds like Buber, Martin Buber almost, doesn't it? In the sense that the I-you relationship is when divinity is present, and only when we're on that interpersonal level of, when we really face each other, do we ever actually communicate, and that communication itself is the meaning of God. The relationship of self to self, which is at the same time self to other. But I guess maybe this is what Hegel means by the ability of the negative to tarry over into being. This tarrying with the negative is the magical power that converts it into being. It's magical. How can a science of philosophy talk about magic? I mean, I don't know. I haven't read much Hegel, so I should probably even stop talking about Hegel. I read some Kierkegaard, though. And Kierkegaard used a lot of Hegel's ideas, but he was just very frightened, you could say, or just very unconvinced by Hegel's assertion that there could be such a thing as an absolute system that is true, that philosophy, that the mind of man could ever know everything, that all of non-being could be, magically transferred into being. Kierkegaard thought that that was sort of, that it was Hegel who was frightened of facing a more individual kind of God, a more concrete God that you face in your life, and that isn't this abstract concept of your rational thought process. Rationality as God instead of intuition is, not that intuition should be God either, but intuition is more what the Tao is, I think. And the Western concept of being is reason. Thought is being. Parmenides got it all started. Oh, Western show. It's these very simple metaphors that we've carried with us the whole way through. And now we're still trying to understand them today. Like spirituality, there's so many connotations. Wow. Let's just mull this over a lot more until we all gain a better understanding of the word. We don't have to come to one conclusion about what the word means, but the more we talk about it, the more complexity and diversity that will arise, and the greater the evolutionary development can be, because the greater the diversity, the more likely you're going to see some novel evolutionary steps taken, I would think.